for strange encounters, sightings, or just whisperings.
Cosmic Girl and Seafood on Bay FM.
Welcome to the first ever Cosmic Girl episode of Strange Encounters.
Yay!
On Bay FM, 100.3 Bay FM. In fact, the heart, soul and spirit of the Bay. This is so exciting. Been looking forward to launching this for a long time. Totally new radio program. We're actually going to be raising the awareness of the public on a whole range of paranormal issues, aren't we, Cosmic Girl?
We are. We're going to cover lots and lots of different subjects and all the strange types of encounters that people have.
And not down at the Fortitude Valley on a Saturday night either.
Not those.
Not that sort of strange
not
encounters.
Hanging with those aliens.
No, not those aliens. We're going to be talking about the UK Scole Experiment, which is very fascinating in terms of a bit of mediumship and communicating with the other side.
And the extraterrestrial connection.
Yes, the ET connection there as well, folks. We're also going to be looking at, as per usual, some very, very cool and very, very strange recent UFO reports that have come across your desk as Madame President of UFO Research Queensland, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We're going to be taking care of business like that, folks, like we do every episode. And we're also going to be talking about Jottles. What the hell is a Jottle? Never heard of that before. And how does that relate to those things that go missing in your home that you can't find for weeks and then just suddenly reappear as if by magic?
Very common.
Very, very common, apparently.
Yes.
So we'll be right back, folks, after this with some awesome UFO reports from Madam President, UFO Research Queensland.
Cosmic Girl and Seafood on Bay FM.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of our paranormal program this evening, Cosmic Girl, we want to talk about something that's a little bit more heartfelt and we both feel quite passionate about. And that is actually educating kids about the paranormal and specifically trying to re-engage kids with the natural world using technology. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, like you say, there's become like a disconnect these days for people in technology. We disconnect from our surroundings, but there are so many apps that you can get now that can take you outside and use that technology more positively to identify the stars in the skies, to identify satellites, iridium flares, the International Space Station, getting your kids outside and still using their technology, but using it to help them re-engage with their environment.
I love that. I love that whole concept of re-engaging with the natural world, because what did we do decades ago without this technology? We looked up and about more, and we looked in awe of our surroundings. It was very much a sense of awe and adventure about the world, and we want to really rekindle that flame in our kids and that curiosity in our kids, don't we?
Yes, and in ourselves too.
Yeah, absolutely, because it doesn't mean to say that a kid is a kid. You could be a kid at any age, couldn't you?
Yeah, our own inner child.
Our own inner child. And especially in this part of the world, Bris Vegas, there is no shortage, is there, of awesome areas, locations where you can conduct your own sky watch.
Yes, you can. You can look. You don't even have to go out of the city. You can go up to Mount Coot Lookout, Mount Gravatt Lookout. You can go to, but if you go out of the city, you can go to Wivenhoe Dam. Yep. The opposite direction, you can go down to Wellington Point or Cleveland, look out over the ocean.
Awesome out that way.
Absolutely.
Especially since there's a submarinal ET base out there in the bay, apparently.
Have you heard that?
I have heard that.
I'm not commenting.
You should be commenting on that, because we know what's out there.
But there are other places you can go to too, down at the bay, down at the other bay, down at Redcliffe.
Yep.
As well. Anywhere where you can get a good, open, clear view of the sky, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, anywhere like that. And
you know what's really exciting too, folks, is the team here at Strange Encounters Radio Show. We're actually going to be teaching you guys a little bit more about how you can actually conduct your own sky watches, and we may even be able to twist the arm of Barry the Brain Taylor to give us a bit of education, the technology out there that we can use to enhance our stargazing experience. What do you think about that, Cosmic Girl? That's exciting stuff, isn't it?
That is. I think that'd be great, because he's had lots of years of experience.
Lots and lots of years of experience. What are you saying? Lots of K's on the clock?
I'm not saying that.
Are you saying that he's due for his? Are you saying that he's due for his 100,000K service, Cosmic Girl? That's a bit rude.
Oh, Oh dear, oil change.
Oil change.
No, not at all. Just that Barry's had decades of experience of being outside, watching the skies. He's developed his vision, his peripheral vision, because that's what happens when you go outside.
And peripheral vision's very important for a whole lot of reasons, especially in terms of, let's say, spirit activity.
Yes, you could say that too.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
go along with that.
You will?
Yes.
Hey, that's a first.
We're on the same side.
Winning, yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And it's a whole new look show, whole new lineup, whole new range of segments that we're going to be introducing to our strange listeners out there.
What will we call them?
I don't know, can we call them strangers?
Strangers.
Would they get offended if we call them strangers?
I don't know. It doesn't quite sound right.
Well, a stranger's just a friend that you haven't met yet.
That's true. That's
Isn't it?
absolutely true.
Yeah, so there you go.
Some of them might even be alien.
Well, geez, let's hope.
Well, I believe that some of them walk among us.
They do indeed. And how do you tell them apart from normal people? Is it the antennae?
It could be. I don't know, really. How could you? That's a very good question. I think it's one that people are still trying to understand.
I think I've asked you that question before a little bit too.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even remember.
I don't
what the
think I
answer
answered it then either.
You didn't.
I carefully did a sideways step. Well, I thought we'd kick it off with some UFO reports that have come into UFO Research Queensland.
All right. Have we had anything recent?
Well, we did have one in on the 14th of January, right, this year. That one actually came in from Ballarat, from Victoria of all places.
Okay.
Because that happens sometimes. We get reports from everywhere.
Yeah.
But a man was driving through the city when he saw what he first thought was a large silver balloon. And that was really bizarre, he said. He thought it had gone astray.
Was there a creepy clown holding it?
No.
Okay.
No. Well,
I just thought I'd rule that out from the
might have been
get-go.
a chair hanging underneath it. I don't know.
Just going along for the ride, I guess. Yep.
But if he thought it was about as high as a commercial aircraft, possibly higher, moved rapidly, and he said at lightning speed from side to side. So that's a real telltale sign.
Well, it ain't no balloon, that's for sure,
And
Cheryl.
it's not a plane doing that.
Nope.
It's not even a satellite. It's not the International Space Station. It's not even a meteor.
Right.
So I don't know what that was. But he said it was faster than anything inside, if there was something inside the object, could actually survive. Move from side to side that fast. So giving it a really good shake-up. So
Was he on his own?
I believe he was.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so that was really strange. But he said what he did say was at times it would slow to a hover, then quickly start moving again. And that happens. We do have that in reports. And the object had lights that flash randomly at intervals, but he couldn't really see any real colour. And he pulled over to watch, and he noticed other people were watching it too. So, he wasn't alone in seeing it.
So people actually pulled over on
Yes,
Cosmic Girl?
they pulled over to look at this object in the sky.
Wow.
So
What time of day again was this?
that was at 2 p.m. It was a daylight
Wow.
thing, yeah. For that, and they're not that common. You get them, but they're not that common.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that was really
Strange?
interesting.
Strange, maybe? I don't know.
Strange.
Yep.
It was a strange encounter, that's for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
But there's been a couple of older reports that came in very recently too. And this one is really interesting, but it came from 1996. And this is what happens. People have experiences and they sit on them for years because they've either reached out to talk to friends and relatives and got rebuked and ridiculed. And so they just keep them quiet. But sometimes they're just, eventually they're compelled to start sharing it with people. I guess when they're a bit older, they feel more confident about themselves,
right.
That sort of thing.
They start to care a little bit less about what
other people think.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So this one actually occurred in 1996 on the Queensland-New South Wales border. And there was a guy who was riding his motorbike south from Brisbane to Byron Bay. And to escape the heavy traffic, he left before dawn. So you can imagine being on the highway, on your bike, the lights hasn't even come up yet, probably hardly anyone on the road. I can just put myself in these places.
I'm just watching your body language here,
Yeah,
Cosmic Girl, as you're telling this story, and you've got a bit of the funk on happening. You've got a bit of a funky roll happening in your seat.
I can step into people's shoes when they're telling these stories because I've had my own experiences too, like a lot of other people. So anyway, he's riding his bike, and as he neared the Queensland-New South Wales border, a very bright light came directly above him and surrounded him. I mean, that'd spook you out, wouldn't it? Anyway, so what happened? At first he thought it was the helicopter police doing a speed check.
A speed. All right.
I mean, the things that go through people's minds, what these things are. So he decided to keep going at a steady 100 kilometres per hour, but the bright light wouldn't go away, and he was getting so angry with these damn police and the glare, which made vision difficult. So he pulled over. Anyway, he had a full face helmet on, so he couldn't look straight up as much as he wanted to while he was riding. But once he pulled to the side of the highway, he glanced up and saw, just for a second, what seemed to be a flying carousel of the type seen at fairgrounds.
Do you know who else described a sighting just like that?
Who?
Damien
Really?
Knott. Yeah, like he's seen that down. Where was he?
Was it outside Sydney?
No. This was at his at his old place where he used to live. What was the suburb?
Oh, at Dunedoo.
Dunedoo. That's right. How could I forget the name Dunedoo?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those names that stick, aren't they?
Did you say stink or
stick?
Righto.
Okay.
No worries.
Anyway, but back to this guy. So, so he saw this flying carousel, right? And it was covered with coloured lights making circular patterns.
Did it have the music as well?
No, I don't think so.
The creepy clown music?
No. What's with the clowns?
I don't know. I've got clowns on the brain at the moment. I don't know what that is.
Just forget the clowns.
All right.
It's
clowns,
not Chucky.
No more clowns.
Okay.
Right.
So he'd only seen it for a second when it accelerated south so quickly he knew it couldn't be a helicopter or any other flying human vehicle because the acceleration would have crushed the occupants. It just took off so fast. So he sort of stood in shock by the side of the road for maybe, 15 to 20 seconds, he said. And then a car pulled up behind him with one male occupant who shouted at him excitedly, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" I can just imagine the scene. Anyway, so he said he saw something, but he was unsure what. And the other man's description seemed to match his own. But the other man seemed convinced it was an alien craft. But this first guy, the bike rider, he said he was reluctant to say with certainty that what it was, because he really wasn't sure what he'd seen. Now, I don't know how you would determine what a flying carousel is in the sky.
I'm just trying to picture that in my head right now, Cosmic
Yes.
Girl. It's pretty...
I got a picture too.
It's pretty out there.
It is, yeah. So that was his strange experience. And
Is there anything typical about that part of the world? Do you get a few reports like that from there?
No.
On the border, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, Queensland, New South Wales border. Not really. We've had for some years, probably up till about 3 years ago, for a 5-year period before that, we had a lot of reports come in from the Gold Coast, but not particularly from that Queensland, New South Wales border area.
This is Damien John Knott from Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations. If you, like myself, have a keen interest in the unusual, the bizarre and paranormal in the world, then tune in with me to the Strange Encounters radio show with your hosts Sifu and Cosmic Girl on 100.3 Bay FM.
It's a really interesting report. And this is another one. This happened about 1990. Only came in recently though, and it occurred in Bowen, in Queensland. Some funny stuff happens up north. I can tell you.
Well, we were talking about this last year. There was a bit of a spate of things happening, up north, north of Townsville and out around that area. What was it, towards the end of last year, or middle of last year? I'm just trying to paint the picture here.
Yeah, I can't.
Like Gordon Vale? Was there something out of Gordon Vale?
Oh, was that with the cattle mutilation?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Up near past Mackay there.
See, I do pay attention,
You do.
Cosmic Girl.
Goodness me, how do you remember that? But I didn't remember that.
Hang on, you're supposed to be the expert here.
I know, but I don't have a great memory with that. I was just saying recently to someone that after a while, after years of doing this, all the reports sort of blend into one big
There's a lot
report.
of similarity.
Yeah, it's just one big amalgam of detail, So, but anyway, this guy, what happened to him in 1990? He was driving home from town one night with someone in the car with him, and they saw something odd. And one said to the other, "Have a look at the light out to our left." And the driver looked and he saw it too. Anyway, next minute, almost instantly, the light was a lot closer to them, maybe 100 metres off, and was pacing them as they travelled along the straight rural road that they were driving on. And we do get a lot of reports of things pacing vehicles.
All right.
Over the years, we've had quite a few of those. Okay.
Have we had any where the vehicles actually win?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
But They do
It'd be
have,
nice for a change.
but we have had quite a few of those reports on the Bruce Highway going north from Brisbane to Noosa. Yes, because there's a lot of traffic that way anyway in the early hours of the morning. But I digress, okay?
Sorry, I
digress.
distracted you again. Got a bad habit of doing that.
So this particular object, it kept following them, checking them out, and it definitely now had their attention. So they lived on an old mango farm at the end of the straight road. They had to turn right and the house was on the left. Now, to enter the property, they'd drive into the driveway one end and out the other end, which would put them back on the road to head back into town. Anyway, they were a little worried at this stage because this thing had parked behind a large mango tree right at the corner. So they stopped the car because to get back to town meant they had to drive straight towards this thing they would pass within 10 to 15 metres of it. And they were not really keen to do that because they really didn't know what the heck this thing was.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Anyway, the driver said he remembers thinking that, should I go inside and get my gun?
Wow.
And we wonder why they don't land sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said he didn't do that and he probably would have been too scared to get out of the car at that stage anyway, but he had that thought. Anyway, they did drive straight towards this thing, turned left and went straight back into town. And the driver vaguely remembers it ended up on the left-hand side of the road again and left them at enormous speed. At the whole time, the thing made no noise. It had no flashing lights on it at all and was way too fast to be anything known to them. It just looked like a fluoro light, okay? It was oval in shape, but a flat oval, and wasn't much bigger than the mango tree it was sitting behind, which could be pretty big. And in fact, the driver estimated it to be about the same size or just under in length as the mango tree. And he said if he hadn't had someone else with him at the time who'd seen it too, he wouldn't have believed it himself. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to have some corroboration there because you do tend to doubt yourself when you see these things on your own. When someone else, like I find when I see something unusual, it's really good to have that person sitting right next to you going, yeah, I see the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you really don't believe it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. You go, what's that?
You sort of doubt your sanity.
Yeah, you can sometimes. Well, for me, not so much sanity, but...
Well, I doubt my sanity all the time, as you know.
Well, there might be good cause for that.
Good cause, yeah, apparently.
But these are the types of reports, those last two, where they've happened years ago, but people sit on them because they don't want to be ridiculed when they talk to their friends and family. They don't want to, or even their workmates, particularly, so they don't want to open that door and go public with these things a lot of the time. And I found this about 4 years ago, I think now, 4.5 years ago. I was involved in Project Newsprint. And what I did was contacted all the regional papers in Queensland seeking reports. So I sent a letter to the editor out to the newspapers. And all these reports came in and I asked each one of them, have you ever reported this to anyone? And none of them said.
How many did you get?
Oh, look, I can't remember whether it was a 50 or 100 now.
Wow.
But it was a lot of reports and they were really interesting reports like these. And they were close up, they were being paced. People had very rich details of what they saw. A lot of them were typically the circular disc-shaped craft with a dome on top, or they were long cylindrical craft. There were a couple of triangles, which, that could have been our own technology, the triangular craft. But these people just sit on it. And especially in regional towns, I think people are less likely to talk about it to other people because some of those country towns are quite small.
Everyone knows everybody.
Yeah, and the word gets around, if you think Jesus lives in the toaster, well, look out.
Doesn't he?
No.
I actually saw some pictures on social media not long ago with a piece of toast that had a image on it that looked a lot like Jesus himself.
Yep. They're around. You can Google them.
Yep, seems legit to me.
Yeah. I don't know what that's evidence for.
I don't know.
Maybe a bit of pareidolia.
Maybe a bit of time for a new toaster, maybe. I don't know. Something like that.
Oh, dear. So, yeah, they're some of the reports that have come in recently.
Okay. So this Strange Encounters show, why is it different to some other paranormal programs that are out there? What are we trying to achieve with this, Cosmic Girl?
Well, I think for me, it's to broaden people's understanding that the paranormal is not just about ghost hunting. It's about people having strange experiences, strange encounters, There are things like, yes, close encounters with things that people think are possibly extraterrestrial craft, but also things like near-death experiences, after-death communication, people who have visions, miraculous experiences, people who commune with the dead, all those types of things. It's anything to do which is not beyond the range of normal human experience. And I'm not talking about tsunamis and, earthquakes. That's not what I'm talking about. For me, it's about helping people understand that there is so much more to our reality than our physical reality. Another thing I'd like to remind listeners is that the paranormal doesn't always hit you on the head. It can be quite subtle, and you could miss it sometimes.
How do you mean?
Well, I think that what happens is people have these experiences and they go, oh, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things.
For example, what do you reckon?
It's just one of those
What are you
things.
talking about?
Oh, something like, say, I had this very conversation today actually with someone where you will put something down on the table, you know you've put it there, and then you come back and it's gone. And it disappears not just momentarily, like for an hour or so, or you just go, oh gosh, I just remember where I did put it. No, it disappears for weeks at a time, and then out of the blue, it will reappear where you'd left it weeks previously.
It's really funny because that is so common, that whole missing or misplaced in
Objects.
air quotes objects. I had the same with one of my favourite knives. Happened a couple of weeks ago. I've just recently moved house, and I swore blue murder that I left this thing where I did on the kitchen counter. Turned upside down the whole house. Several weeks later, it's just appeared there. Like I found it and I'm wearing it again. So that is just bizarre stuff. And you put it down to, again, you question your recollection of events. Did I really leave it there? Did I put it somewhere else? And then all of a sudden, it just shows up. But what do you reckon causes that, Cosmic Girl?
Well,
Are the ghosties playing with us?
For strange encounters, sightings, or just whisperings.
Cosmic Girl and Seafood on Bay FM.
look, I'm not really sure, but let me answer it by telling you something that when we went to a conference a few years ago, a paranormal conference down at the Katoomba at the Blue Mountains. It was Paracon. I don't know if Paracon's running anymore, but there was a gentleman there called Dr. Tony Jinks, and he spoke about this very subject. And he said there is actually a term for it. They're called Jottles, Jottles. So get on your computer, people, and look up Jottles.
Jottles. Jottles.
Yep.
Jottles.
And what it is a phenomenon of where things will disappear and reappear, or they will just appear. Now, he gave some examples. One was from a woman who was walking along and I think it was a piece of turquoise came out of the sky and fell at her feet. Another one was where a pearl appeared in a woman's ear. I think she was sleeping and she woke up. Not quite sure on that, but a pearl was in her ear. She found who finds a pearl in their ear?
You sure she wasn't growing it? No. All right.
Other cases were where people would go to the library and borrow books, get home, and one of the books was not the one that they had actually borrowed.
Now that's interesting. Like when they discovered that book, was there a message in it? Was there something that was particularly relevant to them at that time? Are you talking about some sort of intervention that's placed that book in their possession? Maybe it was a message that they needed at that particular time in their lives?
Look, it could have been. I don't know. I didn't
know.
actually interview those people, and he didn't actually talk about that.
That would have been
But he was
interesting.
talking about these out-of-place objects that appear, and I guess you could call them, some of them that just appear, not disappear and then reappear, but the ones that just appear
Out of thin air.
are like apports. Apports are things that appear out of thin air, and there was an experiment done some years ago of this called the Scole Experiment, where these apports would appear on a table where there were four sitters around a table trying to communicate with the other side, with spirits, basically, the spirit world. And these apports would appear out of nowhere. And these apports were things like tie pins, coins, Little
Contemporary or historical?
both.
Oh, wow.
Both. One was a newspaper. This was very interesting. One was a newspaper that was dated some years previously, a whole newspaper, and it actually came down and made a sound on the table as it struck the table.
Wow.
Pretty interesting, hey?
Well, it's better delivered late than never, I guess.
It's true. Maybe we could say that about, some post offices. But we won't say the name.
So what was that? Jottle, was it?
Jottles.
A jottle. So
Yes.
the origin of that term, where does that come from? That's intriguing. So what you're saying is when you put down something,
Yes.
and you swear that, okay, I left my glasses here or my purse here or my credit card here or whatever, and you cannot find this thing, and then all of a sudden, sometime later, 2 weeks later, you come back and it's in the same place or a different place in your home, and that's called a jottle. And why? What is the rationale behind that? Has there been any theorising about why that occurs?
Well, I know Dr. Jinks did put up some possibilities, but I think from memory he came to the conclusion that
Ghosts have a sense of humour?
there was something else going on besides, something else. There was a phenomenon, put it that way, that was unexplainable.
I've heard it in certain ET circles where people explain it as being extraterrestrials, visitation, taking a particular liking to something, taking it away, conducting God knows what with it, and bringing it back after they'd finished. That's something that I have heard of before. Have you heard of anything like that before, Cosmic Girl?
Taking something away and then bringing it back. Well, I would suggest that might be that individual's interpretation of that. I have heard people say things like, "Oh, because these are people." Obviously, I'm dealing with people who report close encounters, so they think it's tied to these extraterrestrials that they allege they're interacting with, right? But also, there's something really interesting that happens to people who have close encounters, and I think there is their kinetic energy seems to be heightened. And when I say that, I mean they seem to start interacting with things around them. So, for instance, they can walk through the house and all the white goods will blow up. They'll become electrically sensitive.
Wow.
The street lights will pop as they go down the street. The lift doors will play up as they're trying to get into them. The car engine or the car itself will do crazy things,
I've had doors shut on me before, but I put that down on my winning personality rather than ET contact. But
well, these are people who'd had ongoing contact experiences. And what happens is they have this after effect. And I think that, and they tend to interpret it onto an external source. But I think in some of those cases, probably more than we realise, it may be an effect caused by them themselves. Somehow their electrical system, and humans do have an electrical system, it is enhanced, magnified, or just goes haywire. And just to give a quick example about that, there was a woman in a country town in Queensland, Western Queensland, where when she was 17, she had this object appear beside her car and it paced her, and I'm talking close. She said she could have reached out the window and grabbed it. So she's on a country highway.
did you get the plate?
No. And she's driving along and this object was pacing her, and she got to hometown. That's it, went inside and basically shut the door, didn't want to know anything about it. She was scared out of her wits. But afterwards, for weeks afterwards, her car would start itself. She would be inside. She'd have the keys in her pocket, she said, but that damn car would start itself and it would just crawl along very slowly. And it happened so often that she actually became the laughingstock of the town. She was ridiculed, she was embarrassed, and not only that, the whole thing was completely unexplainable. So
the car was like possessed.
It was like it was possessed.
Is that like Stephen King, Christine, or something like that?
It could be something like, I don't know. But I think what was happening, somehow, whatever it had paced her vehicle had interacted with her own circuitry and made her somehow electrically sensitive, and almost to the point where she could tune into other electrical currents, even if they weren't human.
All right.
That's a possibility. Now, that's really paranormal stuff, right?
Wow. So, I mean, that lends a lot of credence to what you're saying about paranormal being more than, just a particular discipline. There's a whole lot of crossover here.
Absolutely.
And a lot of stuff too, by the sounds of it, Cosmic Girl, that on the face of it could be mistaken for spirit contact and spirit activity may actually be extraterrestrial and vice versa.
Yes. And it could also be that someone's had an experience that has affected them so much that it's changed their frequency.
Right.
And I know Dr. Ken Ring, who was a near-death researcher, he spoke about that sort of thing, how he studied people who had close encounters and people who had near-death experiences, and he thought that their own energy systems were changed. And that's what I said before, that people tend to project that onto external sources, but maybe it comes from them.
Okay.
So, we don't really understand ourselves as human beings.
Well, I'm flat out understanding myself at the best of times.
Cosmic Girl and Seafood on Bay FM.
So, but look, I want to get back to the Scole Experiment in the UK and just flesh that out a little bit more, because from what I limited knowledge of what actually occurred, there seems to be quite a significant ET connection there. Is that right?
There is, yes.
And how was it actually conducted, and what sort of controls were used? It was quite a scientific undertaking, wasn't it?
Yes. It went for 5 years. There were 4 sitters in a room.
When you say sitters, what do you mean by that, Cosmic Girl?
Yeah, I believe 2 of them were psychic and 2 of them were mediums. Okay, so they were basically...
What's the difference?
Well, a medium can actually commune with the spirits far more readily than a psychic. A psychic can pick up information, but a medium can commune with spirits.
Right.
Okay, so they sat in this circle weekly for 5 years, and over time that progressed, and it went from sitting there in the dark, they would sit in the dark, just the 4 of them, but over time they started to have, people heard about what they were doing and some of the results they were getting, and scientists got involved. And one of them was Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, who's quite well known in his field, and he looks into the paranormal as well. And so there was a film placed on the table. It started off with film in cameras, and then it moved to just film on the table. Then it moved to film in a locked box, and that was put in there by scientists, okay? And what would happen is, after they would sit around in a circle and attempt to commune with the spirits, they would take the film out, get it developed, and on there would be signatures, poems, writings, and one of them was the signature of Thomas Edison, and that was later confirmed when they sent to some institution in the United States and got a copy of his signature. And they confirmed it was his signature.
And they had a light bulb moment?
Yes, basically, yes.
So,
you couldn't resist, could you?
No, sorry.
But what happened?
I am immature, you know that.
What a cheeky look. But anyway, what happened after that, though, was that they would have video camera on as well. So, and they would capture all these strange things, and I mean strange. And one of those was an image of what you could only call was a grey type shaped looking being, extraterrestrial, but he was blue, and they nicknamed him Blue. And on the film, they only showed his head, but and there were other beings too. There was this strange head with eyes that would roll from side to side, and these were not normal eyes. They were roundish eyes, and they were set far apart, but you could see they were actually eyes.
Have you seen this stuff yourself?
Yes, it's on
Where can
YouTube.
we find it? Where can our listeners find this stuff?
It's on YouTube. You just look up the Scole Experiment, or I think it's called the Afterlife Experiments.
All right.
As a documentary about it.
And all that footage is on there?
Yes, it's in
Wow.
the documentary.
Well, there you go, listeners. You've got to get into that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. But just to finish off the extraterrestrial connection, one of the gentlemen who was involved was a man called Robin Foy. And I heard him last year being interviewed after all these years with the Scole Experiment. Because what happened was, a lot of people thought the experiment stopped. Well, it didn't. They continued, they just weren't public about it. And then they moved to Spain, and they've set up another centre over in Spain now. And since they moved there, this blue character doesn't just appear with just the head. It appears in front of them as a being, as a full being, 4 feet tall, and communicates with them.
Wow.
So that's continuing to today.
Now, I believe Barry the Brain Taylor, he actually shared an interesting bit of information with us earlier about the experiment. Apparently it was communicated to the sitters some blueprints to build a
Device
to enhance the communication capability of the team.
Yes.
Do we know anything about that device? It hasn't been patented by Kmart.
No,
or
I
anything
don't.
Like that
No, I
yet?
don't think it's been
I
patented.
can't go down there and pick up a Ouija board
No.
in the toys section and also get my blue communication device.
Yeah, that would
And
be
why
handy.
not?
That
Because
could be handy, couldn't
That
it?
could really. I mean,
Yes.
Christmas has been and gone, but
Yeah,
geez,
yeah.
what a seller!
But I think that was sort of in the progression of the contact. So eventually they weren't using anything
At all?
like that. No.
Right.
That they were using it for a while and then they stopped using that. They had other things happen there too. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake told the story of sitting there one night in the room, and this discarnate hand, just a hand, appeared and touched his hand. And he said, "What do I do now?" And they said, "Talk to the hand."
Talk to the hand.
Maybe that's where they got that saying from.
Bon
I don't know. So he said, "Hello, hand," something like that. But this hand was touching his own hand.
Did the hand have a name? It wasn't Thing or anything
No, I
like that,
don't think it was
it?
Thing. No, it could have been a movie.
Is
The
it It or
retired
Thing?
movie
I
star.
can't remember now. Is the hand in the Addams Family? Is it?
Yes.
Is it It or Thing? No, cousin It.
No,
It's Thing.
It had the hair
That's right.
like moi, and Thing was the hand in the box.
Right.
Yes.
Because that's really important to the story, folks. Sorry.
Again, you digress.
No, I do. Yeah. Sorry.
So, but other things happened, like the table that they were sitting around, it would start spinning and it lifted off the ground.
Wow.
And there were quite a few people there who saw that. And Rupert Sheldrake was one of those people on one occasion. So this has been really well documented. It's been published in a book. And I guess having the scientists involved gives it more credibility, because if people like you or I had done that, no one would probably take much notice of us. But because these other scientists got involved, they paid more attention.
So these are really credible people that are quite established in their fields, highly qualified, highly educated people. So you'd think that we'd want to be taking what they said and observed quite seriously, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So all the strange stuff happening all over the planet, what about something recent that's happened in our neck of the woods here that you know of? Any strange stuff? Don't ask me that. That's what she does. And she does this all the time when we talk, so you guys don't get to see it. Like, she abuses me that way too, guys.
Oh, I
but we
do
won't
not.
go down that.
Just poke my tongue at him.
Well, even in terms of, like, we've had some fairly topical Yowie encounters very
that's
recently,
true.
haven't we?
Yes, we have.
In the Gold Coast area, we've had the one that I know of with the truckie that happened. When was that? That was.
Tell us that again. Remind me. Refresh my memory. Refresh
I'm
my
just
page.
trying to refresh your page. I'm just trying to think of it exactly. We should actually get Ray Doherty on the show at some stage, because he was hinting to me when I contacted him today that there's some fairly significant developments in the field of Yowie research in this country, and I guess a little bit of change of direction, and some of the stuff that people are doing in terms of Yowie expeditions and Yowie research in our backyard is fascinating and, really, really interesting. So I probably won't preempt that too much, listeners, but stay tuned to Strange Encounters radio show, because we'll be bringing that to you, as well as some other very interesting topics over the coming weeks.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, it should be very interesting.
Yes.
I am Ghoul Shadows from Tales of the Twisted and the Vampire King of Brisbane, and you're listening to the Strange Encounters radio show with Sifu and Cheryl. And remember, the truth is out there somewhere.
So, Cosmic Girl, how do our listeners contact Strange Encounters, if they've got a strange encounter that they want to share with the rest of us, how do they go about that?
Well, they can send us a message on our Facebook page, which is called Strange Encounters Downunder. They can also send us a message via the UFO Research Queensland Facebook page.
Bay FM?
Oh, and they
Don't forget Bay FM. You can't forget Bay FM. They can call us on 38210022. Speak to our office staff. We'll take your name and we'll get back to you. Or you can actually visit the 100.3 Bay FM website, which is up and running. Yeah, and the other thing too is with UFO Research Queensland. What are the numbers for UFO Research Queensland?
Well, the office number is 3376-1780, so they can contact us on that number too.
That's awesome. So, guys, we really are encouraging you to reach out and share your stories with us. As you know, there are a lot of people out there that are experiencing a very similar high level of strangeness. It's quite common, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, actually, I find that there's more people have strange encounters than what most of us think.
Cosmic Girl and Seafood on Bay FM.
What are we going to talk about next week, Cosmic Girl? Putting you on the
Ask me
spot.
that. No,
I've actually got Barry the Brain Taylor staring at me right now. What do you think, Barry? What are we going to do?
I can't talk about a microphone.
Okay, he's got a microphone now. What do you reckon? Oh, he's having a sulk. Actually, note to self, Seafood, bring an extra mic for Barry the Brain next time.
I've got a mic.
Oh, hang on.
I know Mike, he lives down under.
Are you not? So you're not going to suffer from mic envy, are you? we'll make sure we'll give you more of an active role in the next show.
Yes.
I've got to hang on to him around my neck.
Okay, so next week, more on UFO reports.
Just called you a moron.
We're going to have morons on UFO reports.
Yes.
We might even have a little bit more of a chat about the Scole Experiment, because it was whispers that there may be some people that are interested in maybe replicating that down under.
Absolutely.
Would that be fair to say, Cosmic Girl?
That's true.
That's true.
Some of the team at Strange Encounters.
Can I get in on that action? Do you
You
need
can.
you need someone that can lift heavy things? I'm not very smart. Maybe I can keep the table from levitating away from us.
You can sit on it.
Change the wheel.
Something like that.
You can sit on the table.
Maybe I just need to be electrically charged by a pacing
Maybe.
object.
Stand away from the power source.
Oh, there you go. And I'll get superpowers overnight.
Maybe.
Well, tune in next week, folks, and we'll see if Seafood develops superpowers so I can be a more useful part of the team.
Friday nights on Bay FM with Cosmic Girl and Seafood.